Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for today's edition of Smart Talk. My name is Sean McMahon, and today I'm joined by two special guests, two of my colleagues from SmartBrief, who help produce all of SmartBrief's food and beverage content. I'm talking about Amy Sung and Trisha Contreras. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, I wanted to kind of get some time with the two of you because, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has kind of changed the way the restaurant industry conducts its business, and the two of you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of that industry. So walk me through some of the changes that are going place, specifically for the dine-in experience. Let's start with there, dine-in experience at restaurants. What's that look like now, and what's it going to look like in the future?
Yeah, it's for sure been a difficult and unpredictable time for restaurants across the board, and ones that depend on dine-in, fine dining and casual dining. It's been, I think, especially difficult because they couldn't switch quickly enough to take out, and they don't have, the drive-through system in place. So they've been counting on outdoor dining, which comes with its own problems. The space being one. We've seen these kind of streeteries open up, places moving tables outside and counting on local street closures for them to be able to do that. But even the room there is kind of limited. And especially now as the weather is cooling down, that becomes another problem. And then things like air quality problems out on the West Coast, I know that's been limiting outdoor dining. So they're having to get even more creative, kind of a second wave, and installing things that are making it able to extend outdoor dining even in the colder weather. So we're seeing little pods to keep, little individual warming stations, and then things like tableside s'mores and bringing kind of like little fireplaces.
Did you say s'mores?
People. Yeah, I read about that. A couple of places are bringing that out, and it's something we saw pre-pandemic, but now that more places are opening up outside, places that didn't have a traditional patio before, they're experimenting with more outdoor stuff. So we are seeing like heaters and, bringing blankets to the table, things like that, to create like a winter garden experience.
That's awesome. My kids are going to definitely love the s'mores part of it. So kind of shifting to indoor dining, what is that going to look like going forward?
Indoor, definitely, it's returning. We've seen places like here in Maryland where I live, they're back up to 75% capacity in dining rooms, but the social distancing rules are still in place. So you have to keep those tables 6 feet apart so those parties aren't close together. So counting on things like barriers between tables, and then we're seeing more long-term investment in air quality systems, purification systems with the UV light, to bring in air and clean it properly to give people that sense of safety.
Gotcha. And then Amy, from kind of a sanitation or cleanliness perspective, obviously restaurants got to do quite a bit to kind of lure people back.
Mm-hmm.
What are trends in that space?
Yeah, so a lot of restaurants now are implementing kind of certification or grading systems where they will post a sign up, at their door and their window showing, their certifications or gradings. Beyond that, I think a lot of people who have dined out now have probably seen the individual signs on tables saying, this table has been sanitized, just as a cue to diners to show them that they're taking the necessary measures to make them feel safe. And then also hand sanitizer is not going anywhere. People are using that left and right. And if a restaurant doesn't have hand sanitizer, I feel like for myself, if I'm going to just pick up takeout or something, I'm wondering why is this? Like what does it mean if they don't have hand sanitizer? So these are all just kind of cues to the diner that they are thinking about their safety and taking the necessary measures to ensure it. Also, I don't know if you guys have heard about, there's this French designer that has created these individual plexiglass kind of barriers for each individual diner at tables.
Wait, you say plexiglass?
Yes, it's just plexiglass, and the design of it looks beautiful, really. And it's very sci-fi, futuristic looking. But whether or not restaurants will actually implement them, and whether or not diners will actually feel good about using them or feel like they're having a dining experience that they want, is kind of yet to be seen. But that just kind of goes to show that, people are trying to think about innovative ways to get people back into restaurants and feeling safe about it.
So just let me kind of get this straight in my head. This plexiglass thing you're talking about, is it every individual diner or my 4-top, 6-top table, or what is it?
Yeah, the one that I've seen has been, I think it's just in design. I don't know if actual restaurants in the US are using it, but yet they're around individual diners. So you'll see a 2-top, 2 people at a table, and each person has this kind of plastic tube around them. Yeah, and so it's meant so you can enjoy your meal within your little tube, your enclosed space, but also see the diner across from you, but be protected from any sort of airborne molecules that might be floating around.
Wow, it seems like definite change to the whole experience.
Yeah.
So next question on tipping. I know that before the pandemic, some things were starting to change, but how has all this changed the landscape for tipping in the restaurant industry?
Yeah. So it's coming up a lot more now because restaurants are having to take kind of a they have to take a look at the way they're operating, the way they're bringing in money, but also the way they're treating their workers. So, before, I think it was maybe 5 years ago where, no tipping really came on the map, and a lot of restaurants were implementing that to combat things like racism and sexism and harassment and pay disparity between the front of the house and the back of the house. And with the pandemic kind of turning the restaurant industry on its head, they, they're given the opportunity to kind of take a look at that again and make changes if they see fit. And whether or not that's going to be effective for diners, I'm not sure. In the past, higher menu prices, automatic service charges, they weren't necessarily received all that well. So that's kind of something that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because it seems like you're definitely asking restaurant staff to do new kinds of tasks in terms of sanitation and things like that.
Yeah.
So now let's kind of pivot. I know you mentioned what you look for when you go get takeout and hand sanitizers, but for folks who have kind of ramped up all their consumption of takeout food, how does that slice of the industry going to look different?
Yeah, sort of like with what Amy mentioned before and these design changes that we're seeing with those tubes. I think that's, a fine dining approach to it. And we'll see even these very upscale restaurants looking to work in those safety features. But on the quick serve and fast casual side, we're seeing design changes being ramped up pretty quickly. Taco Bell, Starbucks, Shake Shack, they're all rolling out these new store formats with either a mobile pickup area or sometimes a second drive-through window, trying to speed up the pipeline of people being able to pick up orders, because I think that is something that's going to be really prolonged. Even after the pandemic, we're going to see more off-premises dining, people picking up food to take it home rather than wonder, am I safe in the dining room?
Gotcha. And then one thing I was reading about, I wanted to ask you all about was ghost kitchens. So what are ghost kitchens, and help me understand that.
Sure. I've seen it called a couple different things, virtual kitchens or cloud kitchens, but ghost kitchen seems to be the most used name for it. And this is something we saw pre-pandemic, certainly, but it's really ramping up now. And I think it's working well for a lot of restaurants. And it's this idea of creating a virtual restaurant brand that doesn't have a brick and mortar store necessarily. Sometimes it's like a shipping container will serve as the kitchen, and customers won't even know where the physical location is. It's just the food is picked up by a third-party delivery driver. And then sometimes it's an existing brand using their current space to host other brands, virtual brands, and make the food from those menus as well. So Bloomin' Brands uses its Carrabba's locations, some of their Carrabba's locations. The kitchen will also cook food for this new brand called Tender Shack, which is a chicken tender focused brand. So you can order these chicken tender menu items from this. It's its own brand. It has its own logo and everything, and customers can still, build a relationship, and they do hope that there is brand loyalty to these truly virtual brands, but there's no dining room. It's just takeout only and delivery.
That's awesome. I like how Carrabba's went with the comfort food play for chicken tenders.
For sure.
And then last, real quick, I know the two of you recently launched a new newsletter called the Friday Feed. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, we launched earlier this year, and it's a consumer-focused newsletter with food news from restaurant to home cooking, new recipes every week, and we partnered with the Culinary Institute of America to launch it. So they provide some of that recipe content and cooking videos. So if you want new restaurant news like what we've been talking about today, and then also recipes in your inbox every Friday, definitely sign up.
Great. I'm sure we'll provide a link to anyone who watches this where they can sign up. Well, hey, thank you both for your time. I really appreciate it. And I feel a little bit smarter about what's going on in the restaurant business. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.